So we'll get started. My apologies on the delay. So I'll call the meeting to order. It's Milton School Building Committee. It's 7:16 on March 24th. As typical, we do a roll call vote on this. So with me in the room is Glenn Hoffman. Yeah. Mark Loring. Here. Aqua Vaughn. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Tom McCarthy. Yep. Yeah. Newest member. Sorry about that. John Cohen. Yeah. Tim Lombard. Present. And then online, we've got Scott Tereshak.
Present.
Oh, we got a quorum. Second thing on our agenda is typical citizen speak. So if you're here tonight for citizen speech, please raise your hand. There's no, so give it a couple minutes and just wait for that. All right, hearing none. All right, we'll move on. Agenda item number 3 is 2 parts. It's approval of our past meeting minutes. So our past meeting was Monday, January 13th, 2025. In that meeting, we also set an executive session, so we have minutes for both of those. Those were all distributed as part of your packets. So give everybody a chance if there's questions, comments, and if none, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve.
Perfect. I'll second. All right, seconded by Mark. All right. And because we're a hybrid, we're going to do a roll call vote. So Glenn Hoffman.
Yes.
Mark Loring.
Yes.
Not a voting member, correct. Aqua Vaughn. John Cohen.
Yes.
Tim Lombard.
Abstain.
Scott Tereshak.
Yes.
And Sean O'Rourke. Yes. All right. The 4th item on the agenda is, everyone's aware, is discussion of MSBA Module 1. So as everyone's aware, we've all entered into MSBA. We'll be starting MSBA in May, but we have the opportunity now to kind of get ahead on some of this stuff. And, you know, the main reason for the meeting tonight was kind of just to walk through some of this, get everybody back re-engaged, because we've kind of been on pause for a couple months, you know, while a couple of things were going on. So with that, I want just give me a second. I'll pull up the MSBA Module 1 and we'll kind of walk through it. You can display it there, right?
I can, yeah.
Oh yeah. Can you pull
What
it?
The website?
Yeah, just Module 1.
Yep.
The flow chart to it. So for Module 1, we kind of walk step by step. So the first thing that's going to be due 30 days after, I think it's May 1st when we get in, is the ICC, which is the Initial Compliance Certification. Seamus, can you hit on the link for that? Down the bottom, blue hyperlink, second paragraph right there. Yep. So essentially what this is just acknowledgement of us entering into MSBA. So it's signed by the chair of the select board, the school committee, and I believe the superintendent. So so this is basically a formal paperwork that, you know, we'll be working with those entities over the next couple months and, you know, get ahead. So any questions on the ICC or anything? That's what I mean. No. Yeah. Yeah. So with this, it's just MSBA's kind of contract language saying you're entering into their Module 1. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yeah.
On timing wise, so we can't submit that till May 1st. Right. And then what, we wait for them to say they're accepted or whatever, and then we go to the next school building committee submission. Is that how it works?
So if you go back to it, so what they showed here, the flow chart that they have there, The flow chart's laid out by the days that they allow you to do some of these, so they don't have to be sequential like that. Obviously, we did the funding, way ahead of it.
Yeah.
So the flow chart's a little deceiving because it looks like you have to do the ICC, then jump into the next one, then jump into the next one. So essentially for us, my goal is we've got get the ICC done within the next month as quickly as we can. And again, it's 3 signatures. That's all it is. And then we submit it. And we'll hold on it in the submittal until we're formally entered in May. And then essentially it just goes in the file with them. So it's not like they get it and then let us go to form a school building committee, which is the next one.
Okay, so when do we do the school building committee?
We've already done the school building committee, so we'll just submit that.
When do we submit it?
Yeah, my goal is the day after we get accepted in.
Okay,
So,
you mean the day after May 1st?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Because we gotta be careful. They say, don't get ahead of yourself.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've checked with them. They've allowed us to kind of get this head start on everything. So my goal is whatever we can submit once we're formally into it, that we have already filed out and done.
Yep.
Get all that on record with them as quickly as possible. So the next one, or at least the next portion of the module they talk about is formation of school building committee. So as everyone's aware, we've augmented our committee now. Tom McCarthy's on with us. I forget what principal is going to be joining us. I think it's John Redden for Cunningham. Nick Milano, I think, is on it. Katie Blake is on it for the MCPPO certification. So there's a number, all the members that got augmented, like we talked about before, are non-voting. So it's still the 9 of us that have been on the committee are all the voting members. The next one that we'll be working here, and this is one I think everyone's going to be interested in, is the educational profile. So the white part of that box, MSBA does that. So, and Sean, correct me if I go wrong on this, but we provide an online enrollment projection up to 90 days.
So, I mean, this part we're usually in afterwards, but during that process, the MSBA will work with you to set your enrollment over that, whatever the 270-day process. But if you're ready to do it sooner, they'll meet with you. And that's going to set your enrollment for the different options that you're deciding to study. And it's kind of a little bit back and forth. They'll look at like Department of Education stats year over year. They'll look at how many students you retain, new growth in the area. They'll look at birth rates and things like that. And they'll come up collectively. And it's a negotiation, but they'll come up with a collective number with this committee to decide on, okay, these are the enrollment options that we're going to study for
whatever school options.
Yes. So whatever school options you decide to put forth.
Okay.
And likely it's going to be an ad typically they make you do a code upgrade at whatever building, an ad reno, and then you could do and then a new build.
Yeah. Okay.
There was some confusion too about there's a module 2, which is the select the project management team and the design team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That kind of squeezes in somewhere between the feasibility study and the end of the, you know what I mean? 'Cause
Yeah.
that's got to be done first.
Yeah. So
that part of it's confusing. It's kind of left out.
Yeah. So
Of some of the slides.
So module 1 will finish with you having
funding.
it'll be funding for a feasibility study and an enrollment plan with the MSBA of which you plan to study, and then you'll have to get together an RFP for picking an OPM and an architect.
Just go to the building.
That'll be module 2, I believe, the forming
Yeah,
the team.
you just go to building with us.
And that's in between then the feasibility study.
Yes, forming the team, and then you start your feasibility study, correct?
Right.
That's right.
But if you just click building with us,
Yeah,
it will give the flow chart of the whole thing.
I saw that, yeah.
Building. Yep.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
So this is all the modules that are there. So for this, eligibility period is the first one that we're doing. Forming the project team is the next one, and that's basically where we start bringing on the OPM, the architect, like we did before. And then once we have the OPM and architect on board, we have our options that we're looking at, the basis for the feasibility study and our funding. Then we pull all that together, pull the trigger, and jump into feasibility study. Cool. All right. Yes, sir. Make sure to speak up too, because the mic's down here, just to make sure.
So what extent can we use the material that we had already created? pretty happy with their side, I don't think everybody's complaining.
Mhm.
Why do we need to go that another year?
So because of the process with MSBA, right, they require you to go out and basically, it's basically, we can't even assume we've had professionals working with us for the past year. So we get into like I said before at the beginning, a couple months ago, this is like a reset button for this. So we hit the reset button, we go out. Now, we're going to go out similar to what we did, I think it was like a year and a half ago that we interviewed all the OPMs and architects. We're going to re-go through that for the OPM section because we're the ones that get to choose the OPMs. So, nothing's precluding them from resubmitting on this. And then, we can go through that process. The architectural selection will be done by a designer selection panel from MSBA. We'll have 3 seats.
3 seats, yeah.
3 seats on there. So out of those 3 seats, whoever gets chosen, you'll have some input on which architect you'd like to go with, but you're not guaranteed the same one. The work they've done,
6 out of comments.
well, I think 15, right?
Depends on who shows up because it's each board member, but I
Yeah.
think it's up to, 16 seats on the board. So 3 hours.
We don't have enough votes.
No, we don't control it.
No, but weren't you saying that in your experience, the vast majority of the time, the architect that the town would prefer to go to is the selected architect?
Most of the time, yes. But you have to position yourself in correctly, and we work with your OPM moving up to that period to figure out what's important to you, and then make your case. Gonna make a good case to the MSP is why you feel that they're the best firm for you, and if you convince them, then they'll certainly go along with it.
And typically at the end, when you're discussing all the architects, the last 3 to speak on the kind of whole thing before you go into voting are the 3 members from the town. So that kind of get the last word in before voting starts. So,
And is,
No.
Street on that list?
We don't know yet. I would assume they would apply for it, but this is a full public RFP. So you'll go out to just a full public advertisement through the chapter 7 process.
But it's not like there's a set list.
I believe there's a set list. You have to have some sort of certification with the MSBA, which Arrow Street does.
Yeah.
But it'll be open to any architect, including Arrow Street, that's in that pool that wants to go after the project.
Yep.
And then just one more thing on your question, Aqua, about reusing what we already did. So the goal is to reuse whatever salvageable information and data that we have. So for example, we have an existing survey of the lot, right? So we're able to just hand that over to the design team when they come on. We've got borings, or at least we're assuming they're going to put the building in a similar location to where we were doing before. We have boring and geotechnical data of that stuff. Again, stuff that we can turn over just to, push them in the right direction and, get them going a little bit and not spend money for a second time to do that.
If I may follow up with a question. What are we doing with the applicants that we have? Are we paused the service? Are we running a
We have-
parallel line?
We have terminated their services. So, and not even, not terminated, it's probably a bad word. We have closed out their contract. So they had a contract with us to do feasibility study up to a certain point. And we had a certain amount of money that was set aside for that, I think like 475,000. And they've billed all 475, they've been paid, and they delivered that final feasibility and cost estimate to us in November. So yeah, if we were to, there's no more parallel paths right now, we're going on one path.
It's not to be clear, if we did select another architect, we could hand them that package and say, this is the direction we would like to go, correct?
I think,
Theoretically, I'm not saying we would do that.
yeah, I think it would be hard for an architect just to take someone else's work and just say, I'm running with exactly that, Technically, could we? Yes, but I don't know how we can enforce that.
Now, I think the
Yeah.
architect that is selected that could come on board will go back through our previous meeting minutes that included attachments that would have referenced that if they wanted to see what our previous discussions were, right?
Well, I think,
Speaking from experience, no matter how strongly I feel about someone, the owner is the owner, and it's their decision at the end of the day, what the architect's gonna do.
Scott raised his hand.
yeah, thank you. Scott, go for it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we slightly varied from MSBA requirements with the last design too, so I'm not sure we can exactly just take it and reuse it. There's got to be some bringing it up to their standards.
Excellent point.
But I would say turning over all of that information would at least let them understand where you ended off from your educational plan, from your, you have a space summary that basically mimics the MSBA space summary. They can tell how many classrooms you wanted to have, how many different world languages, all that sort of stuff where we had lots of conversations with the school department on. They can take that and hit the ground running. And you're going to have to do those meetings again. You're going to have to do your educational planning again, but it may be, give you a head start on it and you further refine it. And
Yeah, the other part I think would be good is from, the teachers, the facilities people and stuff like that, having already gone through this like visioning and stuff like that already, it's almost like a dress rehearsal for now, the next one that we're doing. Because I think before when they were doing it, what was his name, Mike?
Mike,
he did a great job, but it was like, there was a lot of coordination, a lot of meetings, a lot of questions, and I think it was hard for people to kind of visualize what was being asked of them.
And it's probably going to be about 50% chance that it's going to be Mike Perillo. Yeah.
Probably.
yeah, he was, there's only two, or maybe three.
He's on the proposal of three.
Yes.
So, yeah, so could we go back to module 1? So after we get done with that, this is one that's probably going to take a decent amount of time for us. So it's maintenance documents and enrollment certifications. So the maintenance documents portion of this, and that's what we have Tom here too as part of the committee. They have a survey that they have you go through and basically, document what's installed, what are your maintenance records, stuff like that. So that I think is our biggest deliverable next. We get 180 days for that. But again, I started talking with Tom.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm pretty confident I went through this because I did a virtual call and it was quick questions and then there was a follow-up with visit. We went to every school.
Okay.
There was a lot of information they took down, so I think we're good there.
But
There's more or something.
yeah, I think they
else,
have us document it all.
but- Okay.
So I think they may have done that as part of their assessment when they were choosing us for this.
Okay.
But I think what they'll probably have us do is formally document all that stuff. So, what I'll be looking for is like some of us to kind of volunteer. You've got enough on your hands, so who you use as a resource to help us kind of understand everything that's there. But similar, like the statement of interest we did before, we want to build like a little team, over the next month. That's ideally my goal. So come May, we have a team set up working with Tom and, start inventorying all this stuff that's going to be there. So. I believe so. So my hope is that we can get that template. I think there's a template of questions, how to respond to it.
Yeah, it was a spreadsheet and basically it was a lot of drop-down boxes. So, I mean, I have that, but they were pretty strict about not sending it via email. It was a virtual call.
Yeah.
And then a site visit. They couldn't send that information
Okay.
for us.
All right. Yeah, I wasn't involved in that.
Yeah.
So, but I think for us, the hardest lift over the next, call it 6 months is going to be, that documentation. If it's there, if it's already done, it'll make me much happier and we can get done.
Yeah, it seems like it's a web-based application.
Yeah, if it's already done, I'd like to,
I think there's a little cleaning up though. So there's some more information you can add to there or even adjust that I noticed after the fact. 'Cause it was literally, they didn't give me a lot of time to gather. It was, when I understood the virtual call, I answered all those questions. And then the gentleman came and did the site visit. Almost a completely different set of questions and
Really?
it was a lot lengthier. So there's some stuff we can clean up.
All right, cool. That's good news. I didn't know. And then, the next part is, the final box was this funding, which we get that checked off and ready to go. So, you know, my goal kind of on this module one is, I know they give us 270 days, but like for me, after May 1st, I want to be done in 90 days. Like be done, hit the summer, middle of summer, something like that complete, and go into module two to start teaming in the fall, or at least that's my goal, to start, because to advertise for the OPM, advertise, get through the architect. We got on a rhythm, I think before, that we had them onboarded by December, January, something like that, and then get them going. So, you know, long-term kind of planning or projection is like put our foot on the gas the next couple months, get as far ahead of this as we can, and ideally 90 days after May, have everything ready. And I want to talk with MSBA to find out when their board meetings are, so we can kind of, you know, aim for getting everything completed before that next board meeting, get on the agenda and see if we can make that graduation from module one to module two.
They've got their board meeting set for 2025 already.
Okay.
I'll just pull those up right now.
And
They sent them out at the beginning of the year. So yeah, so the board meetings are all the dark blue ones. So, you know, I can send this to you by email, but this is also on their website. They just routinely at the beginning of the year, they go through as the whole committee and basically set the calendar for the year.
Every other month.
Yeah, and then there's some subcommittees then, and some submissions don't require meeting with the boards. Like this is really just the invitations from one module to the next, et cetera. And then the facilities subcommittee stuff, that stuff you'll get to in feasibility study.
no, it's good.
One of them that's never too early to start thinking about is ed plan. MSB is really big on the educational plan, and the building that you build needs to kind of fit with your ed plan. So just thinking about getting any documentation from the school department you might need together, or figure out who the right people to involve in that process is. It takes a while to do, and oftentimes during the school year, it becomes much more difficult to engage people to do it. So the earlier you just kind of start thinking about it, the better off you're going to be. And in our file share, there are some examples there. If anyone's curious as to what an MSBA ed plan looks like, we put through some examples from like 4 or 5 different projects up there. So feel free to go through there and take a look.
Any other questions on module one or MSBA kind of marching orders for, you know, the next 6 months?
Just because the ed plan, that's the educational profile that's listed here under this, or is that under?
No, it'll be for the planning of the new building. So yeah,
Okay.
when you're looking at your spaces, you have to make sure that whatever you put in your ed plan aligns to the spaces that you're designing.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that too. Okay.
And it's just one of those things that once you get into it, people don't realize how much work it is to kind of draft that document up. So just getting how the school teaches and how they plan to teach. And if you don't have that already written down and documented, it would be a good time to start doing that. And then it'll be modified for whatever project you're going to move into.
In our previous engagement with the past architect, did we create that kind of document?
I think bits and pieces of it, but not, I don't think to a level that the MSBA would be acceptable for that.
Right.
Oh,
Look good to move on. Next agenda item. All right, moving on. Agenda item number 5, discussion MSBA statement of interest, Collycott, Glover, Tucker, and Pierce Middle Schools. So as you guys know, we submitted a statement of interest only for the Cunningham because, you know, essentially MSBA told us you can only submit on one school, submit for, you know, the worst case one. So we did it for Cunningham. So after we've been accepted, there was, you know, the option for us, they became aware that, you know, a middle school is an option we wanted to look at. And my understanding was they wanted us to, any of the other affected schools, submit statement of interest for those, essentially so they're on record that, you know, we're going to be doing work in these other schools. So I think it's my read on it. It's not as deep as we would need to go for the previous statement of interest of like how, you know, Mark, you can testify to this of how long and deep everything was on there. But I think what we need to do, and I was nervous because I thought this was due this April. It's actually due next April, so we've got some time on it. But we're probably gonna have to submit statements of interest for any, if we do the middle school as an option, it touches all the other schools. So we'll have to develop statement of interest for each of those other schools. Again, so MSBA just has it on record of the statement of interest for those other schools. Not that those schools will be accepted or anything like that, but I think it's just an internal paperwork thing. So Peter got that email from them. Were you copied on that one? Okay. So that's just another one on our radar over the next kind of year to start pulling some of that paperwork and stuff together for it. So I'll open it up, see if there's any questions or anything like that. Yes, sir. I don't think we're not submitting it to get accepted. So we're submitting that stuff essentially for record of those other schools that we might be touching them. Yeah.
And I know we're not touching the school, but this is sort of creating a campus here and it's adjacent to this school or work's happening. So I don't know.
Yeah.
We need to do every building in the system. to have one.
This is the discussion I want to have with MSBA to find out exactly, get them to understand what our program would be if we do the middle school. And based on that program, what are their requirements? I think they initially they just rattled off, they wanted piercing Collycon, and I don't think they realized we were going to touch the other schools. So just to protect ourselves on the agenda, I listed everything else, but knowing we've got a year to do this, and we're going to start engaging with MSBA after May. We're going to have a direct project manager with them. So these are the type of, questions as we're coming up to that we can present to them. So as over the next, 6 months or something like that, you'll start hearing us talk about the statement of interest again, just so everybody's aware. So, any questions, anything else? All right, agenda item number 6, discuss closeout OPM contract for non-MSBA school project. So our friends at PMA, this is our last meeting with them. So, you guys have done a great job. Appreciate everything.
Thank you.
I'm not looking forward to taking minutes again. We'll suffer through it.
Suppose I can volunteer as a town resident to take minutes for it.
If you want to be a volunteer, but yeah, yeah. No, I think for the next couple.
Rule number 1.
So essentially with this, we've got our final invoices for PMA. Again, those were, submitted as part of the packets and stuff like that. So just got to get these guys paid. You guys are way under budget, from what I understand.
Yes, so I have a budget update. So this budget that I shared in the packet is updated for the 2 invoices that are included here, the January and February, which are the only 2 that we haven't processed through this SBC. But it overall more or less shows that we've billed to date with all these invoices about 66 grand out of the currently contracted 160.
Yep.
So that gives us in our contracted amount about 93 grand that we just wouldn't be billing.
Yep.
Because we were anticipating, going to all the public forums, going to, presentations and all that stuff. So we'd be expected to be ramping up as we were going towards a vote, but with that not happening, this is what is going to end up being returned unspent from that original bucket that you guys had. And now you guys are shifting to the MSBA feasibility study bucket.
Any questions?
So much for your work.
Thank you.
Bittersweet, but we'll be back in front of you.
Same proposal, same everything. We'll see what happens. All right. So essentially with that, we just need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the invoices for PMA.
All right. And any discussion? Hearing none. So roll call vote. Glenn Hoffman.
Yes.
Mark Loring.
Yes.
Aqua Vaughn.
Yes.
John Kane.
Yes.
Tim Lombard.
Yes.
Scott Tereshak.
Yes.
And myself, yes. So, second to final agenda item is future meeting dates. So I figure, we're kind of going at a slow pace right now, which is good. But I'd probably like to do just, one meeting next month at some point just to check in. And then I think once we get into MSBA and stuff like that, we might go back to more of a rhythm or a cadence that we're doing before. I don't think we have to go every 2 weeks or anything like that. Originally, when SBC was formed, we were going like every 3 weeks. But, we can talk about that at the next meeting. But I think for us, if we aim for, this is the problem with April is school vacation week. On the 28th, I'm actually, I turned 50 on the 28th, so I won't be here for that. If we wanted to, yeah, what is it?
It could be.
Town meeting, yeah, the 12th. Could be town meeting, I think.
In May?
Yeah.
All right.
So we're in May, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think.
Now we're, yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think for this, if everyone's fine with it, I'm fine with it. We wait until after. So when is town meeting?
Town meeting is the fifth,
And eight.
Okay, that first week, so,
auditorium topic again.
Yeah, that was because of, festival for the arts, so I don't foresee that in the May.
Yeah.
So just a heads up,
yes, sir.
17th, the 2 weeks I'm out, the last 2 weeks in May, I'm not around.
Okay.
That's 12.
That's exactly what
You guys should all, you guys know.
Oh, where are we going?
It's precious.
Marco Island.
There we go.
Oh, that's official.
I'm gonna be fishing on the 12th. So.
Yeah, we can't please everybody.
No strikers.
No.
I'm caught every kind of fish. It's great.
No, that time of year.
So,
Snook is actually out of
so,
season, you can't keep it,
Yeah.
but I caught my biggest snook on it down there in December, I think it was a monster.
all right, so May 12th, we're good. I know you're not good. You can
A
call
lot of shots.
Believe me, where I'm gonna be.
it's all good.
You're not gonna be worried about anything.
I'm on there, I am gonna be,
But I had black.
a day from Service.
Scott, May.
Fly fishing?
Yeah.
Where do you go?
Right on.
Last year, the Allagash, this year, the
Guys,
St. John
nice.
also
Can
ended
we,
Allagash.
guys, can we just close the meeting?
Oh, yeah. We get excited.
Yeah, no, we're at the very end. Just, Scott, are you good for the 12th? Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right, cool. So future meeting date, the 12th. Last thing on the agenda item is adjournment. So I entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. And then roll call vote just to keep it normal. Glenn Hoffman.
Yes.
Mark Loring.
Yes.
Akwa Bond.
Yes.
John Cohane.
Yes.
Tim Lombard. Yes. Scott Tereshak.
Yes.
John O'Rourke. Yes. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good night.